And that's why you can't count on UPS. What's going on, everybody? This is the Coverbandconfidential podcast, the podcast for cover musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
I fell victim to the estimated time of delivery this week.
Sad.
So if you're not in the Patreon Slack, which, why aren't you?
Yeah.
You would know that the stupid deal of the day this week got me real bad.
It did.
So I have not been shy about my love of the Schecter Nick Johnston signature Strat.
Yep.
I'm not a Strat guy. I frankly don't care for them much, and I bought this one, and it totally churned that whole thing around. And was looking at this gig that we had coming up, this 90s thing. We did the first 90s gig in a million years last Friday, and we actually have one coming up on Saturday. But I was looking at the fact that I was going to have multiple guitars because there was some stuff with different tuning and capos and stuff. And sure enough, on Tuesday of last week, Musician's Friend was like, hey, that Nick Johnston that you've already got, well, what about a pink one? And I was like, ooh. And it was literally $50 more brand spanking new than the one that I bought used, 2 years before. And even then it was a great deal. And so I pulled the trigger, like without hesitation. I did it. And they're like, it'll be here on Thursday. I was like, hell yeah. This thing will be ready to go. And there was some sort of kerfuffle with the ordering. I did not get on the phone and tell them who I was. That was the running theory on in the Patreon group. Yep. But it said that the order was good to go, and then it was back ordered, and then the next day I got a shipping tracking number. And it was like, okay, well, that's weird. And they said it was going to be there on Friday between 2:15 and 6:15. And I was really hoping for 2:15. I was hoping for 2:15 so much so that as we were leaving to go to the gig, because we had a 3 p.m. load-in time, Amber's like, why do you have an empty case in here? And I was like, well, what if the UPS truck is pulling into the neighborhood as we're pulling out?
Right.
And she's like, you're an idiot. Fair critique.
Yeah.
It did not show up. It turns out that I got the notification that it had been delivered at 7:15, which was approximately 15 minutes before we were supposed to go on stage that night. So it was not meant to be. That being said, it is right over here, and I have been playing it pretty much nonstop since it got here.
Excellent.
And it will be 100% in the rotation from here on out. Actually, I'll grab it real quick. You guys see it. Ooh. So roasted maple neck with an ebony board.
Nice.
And this is they call it the traditional. So it's got the 3 single coils.
Yep.
And just the pankest pank you could
as pank as it comes.
Imagine.
Yeah.
And it plays exactly like the other one does, which means it's fantastic. I do need to do a couple of things. I need to adjust the action and get the intonation dialed in. Got a couple of feeler gauges coming in tomorrow from Amazon to wrap that up. And this thing is going to be golden. And I've been playing Stratty songs this entire time, and it's been great.
Good. And
yeah, just lots of gear this week. Just my bank account is in shambles, but so many fun things. I got this. I ended up with a hazer somehow.
Oh,
so now our lighting deal now has the
for sure
added.
You gotta have a hazer. You can't see the lights otherwise. You gotta have a hazer.
Yes, of course. And this one just kind of fell in my lap. I can't think of the name of it, but it's one of these things that's like housed in a road case. I actually looked it up. It was like $900. That's what he just literally gave it to me.
Wow.
And it does have very expensive juice.
The juice.
I looked at the juice. The juice is like $150 per container, which is a lot. That's a lot of juice.
Yeah. I have a Chauvet that takes cheaper juice. Not that bad.
Yeah.
I've been looking at the bubble fog machines.
Yeah.
Machines that put out bubbles filled with fog.
Yes.
And then, they pop and
that's a lot of fun.
It's super fun. Yeah.
And I'll say this, this Friday gig was the maiden voyage of the Maestro DMX.
Yeah.
And I found out something really cool in the process of prepping for this, that the Chauvet color band pixel lights that we were using as uplights can be vertically mounted on, of all things, a tripod mic stand.
Okay.
So instead of having them on the ground pointed up at us, I actually put them behind us, vertically mounted on these stands. And it, at the end of the show, which went great, by the way, we played a bunch of stuff we'd never played before. Crowd liked it. Vibe was great. We had a blast. But the person who booked us and the manager of that venue was like, "What are these lights? Tell me about these lights." And I'm like, "You literally have 5 of them pointed at us in front of the stage right now."
Right.
She's like, "Oh my God, are you serious?" And I swear I literally sent them the affiliate code. So I might have gotten a couple more sales
Nice.
from that gig, which is wild.
That's good.
I cannot say enough nice things about this. And now I've got, this is the issue though, is that now I've spent more money than I anticipated, but man, it looks great.
Yeah.
And it's already made a legitimate difference in the quality of our show.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm shopping for a similar thing, but it's a tube light. It's in like a frosted plastic tube, but it's addressable LEDs all up and down it. And the one I've been looking at is from a company called Both Lighting, BOTH, which I hadn't heard of before coming across this product, but it turns out, guess where they're based? Greensboro, North Carolina. I drive by their warehouse all the time. So I'm thinking I'll probably reach out and like invite myself to drop in and look at them.
You should.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a 4-pack for about $1,000.
Okay.
So they're not super expensive, but they're battery powered.
Yep.
So that's nice. And then they have built-in wireless DMX. The same,
very nice.
The same protocol that the ones with the antennas. They'll sell you the sender of that, and the catcher is built into all of those. There are better words than that. Transmitter and receiver, not sender.
Yeah,
and catcher.
there we go.
I know I'd get there. But same kind of concept. You stand up, stacks of pixels, and Maestro DMX can do cool things with them. That's a good time. Yeah,
the quality of the pixel style lighting with that particular controller is really impressive.
Yeah,
it is probably the thing that I was the most blown away by. Even with the movers and the other stuff, like I really love the look of the pixel lights doing their thing. Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear about that. And I will say this, after going through and setting up wired DMX for everything, I am very interested in the prospect of doing it wirelessly.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned with the fact that it feels like all that stuff is running on 2.4 gigahertz wireless. And I feel like it could get real crowded with all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of in that world. But I know a lot of folks that use them and it's dead simple and just kind of does what it's supposed to do. So
yeah, I've only set it up in the practice room with the Maestro and 2 4-bars, but it seemed dead reliable. It seemed like it was working great. Now I've had some things work great in the practice room that then completely flopped on stage. So this may be added to that list, but I don't know. We'll find out.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I'm actually currently road testing a pair of KZ in-ears that I got to do a product review on, and they sound great. And I've been using custom in-ears for years and years, and they're comfortable. They sound fantastic. So I'll have more to report later. But yeah, it's been a real exciting gear week.
That's good.
So I don't think I've got any other big. Actually, that's a lie. I almost told our guitar player that we were going to drive to Branson, Missouri to pick something up this week. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
But heavily considered. But the guy won't ship it. So that's a different story for a different day.
All right, I look forward to it.
What about you? Do you any gigs this past week? What do you have going on?
Yeah, I played acoustic karaoke on Friday night and live acoustic solo on Saturday night, which is, it's been a while since I've had an acoustic gig. Good long time actually. And there was a time when I was playing a weekly standing acoustic thing, and my chops were tight, and my chops were not tight going into this one. It was 6 hours of acoustic guitar playing.
Yowza.
And I was keenly aware that I was in my 6th hour during the 6th hour. The other thing is, if you've been hearing the saga of my podiatry experience, I did sit on a stool for the first 2/3 of both of those shows, and it was okay. It was awkward. Didn't love it. And then stood up and was like, oh yeah, this is me. I just move around more than that. I just do. And so I'm going to have to find a way. My physical therapist has been talking to me about how much mobility I'm willing to trade for pain, like as a lifestyle choice.
Sure.
And my podiatrist this morning, I had my first follow-up with him. He was like, you're a little young to be making that trade-off. Let's not, there's still some interventions left. So, so that's good to hear. Anyway, I heard a lot in new exciting ways and some old and traditional ways after these 2 gigs. But it was a really, really good time, especially the solo one on Saturday. It was some folks who have been regulars for a long time but haven't seen them in a while came. It was really, yeah, it was just a good time with great folks I haven't seen in a bit. So
sweet.
Yeah.
I've been up to my eyeballs in just like live music in general. One of the things that's gone on is our eldest is a rising freshman in high school, and he's joined the marching band. It's a very big deal. It's very involved. There's a lot of stuff going on, and part of the volunteering opportunities is working a vendor stand, selling beer and wine at the Live Nation amphitheater by our house, literally like less than 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
And this past week, we worked 2 shows, the Mastodon Lamb of God show,
Okay.
and the Third Eye Blind Yellow Card show, which was last night. And really cool to get a chance to see very different kinds of shows.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be in that world and getting to see sound check and looking at the gear and stuff. And it's fun to be on the other side of that for a little bit. And then also you just, you're cracking cans open. And now the thing is that if you're selling wine, you either sell it by the can or by the bottle, and you can't just give them a bottle. So you have to like decant it. So there's this whole thing about like literally like pouring entire bottles of wine into other containers and stuff. It was it's a trip. It's a very weird prospect, but people really enjoy it.
Sure.
When we worked the Foreigner Styx concert a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, I've never poured that many bottles of wine in my entire life, but it's just that was the crowd. The crowd was there. They were there to have their
they were a wine crowd,
their Pinot Grigio, and listen to head games, I guess.
Yeah, love it.
So yeah, lots and lots of live music, and my feet are also killing me because I've been on them pretty much for like 6 days straight. But you know who's not in pain? This week's review person.
Yeah.
So this was a 5-star review that came in from Dave on Apple Podcasts. It says, "This podcast is beyond great. Not just great, beyond it.
Beyond
We're
it.
past that.
Yeah.
As a founder of a still new pop punk emo cover band in Cleveland called Taking Off Monday, which is a great name.
Good. It's really good.
This pod has been invaluable to help our group think through the myriad issues and considerations faced by a new band. Adam and Dan are both entertaining and relatable and do a great job breaking down topics into digestible content. Love it. P.S. Do more drum-focused content, please. Dave Carlson, drummer for Taking Off Monday." So big thanks to Dave for shouting us out. And if you want to hear your band or your name mentioned on the show, leave a review. Easiest way to do that.
We'll need some support with drum-focused content. Neither of us live in that world too much, but we know some people. We know drummers, and the Skid Row interview actually had us charting in Norway of all places this past week. Sweet. Okay.
So the people want it, and so we are obligated to oblige, I suppose.
There you go.
All right, so I don't have any other general housekeeping stuff. Things been pretty quiet. Honestly, it's just been quiet because we've just been busy. I've been bunch of gigging and prepping for gigs and all that stuff. So there's just not a lot of other stuff going on, and that's okay. That's kind of where we're at. We're in that busy season, and you have to do the thing that you make the content about in order to make the content. So
true.
That's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
But this week, in that particular kind of vein, is a topic that I feel like has been really prevalent in the Slack channel and just kind of in general in our world, which is the topic of weather. Because it's summertime for us in the States. It's still weird. We've got folks in Australia who are talking about how winter's slowing down, and I don't understand that because we're busier than ever.
Yeah.
But in that, with summer concert series and just the general situation, you're doing a lot of
patio gigs
stuff
at the bar, and we're outdoor. It's outdoor season,
and at least where me and Dan are located, there's a lot of things to take into consideration when we're talking about performing outdoors. And the weather has been, I would say, particularly unpredictable and kind of miserable.
Yeah.
Where we are.
Yeah.
If it's not raining, it is oppressively hot.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say.
Yep, I would say so.
So the things about weather that we have to kind of figure out or deal with are, how do we endure the weather when the gig happens, and how do we account for the weather when it doesn't cooperate?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, those are the two options.
And we asked for some questions, or for some anecdotes and stuff, and we got a couple that came in via email, and we'll kind of drop into that in a little bit. But the two things that we really need to kind of dig into are heat and rain.
Yes.
So which one of those do you think we should hop in on first?
Let's talk about heat first, because there's only so many things you can do.
Yeah. So it's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be hot,
and it has been.
Yep. Rule number 1: hydrate.
100%. Do not mess around with that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Because when it is hot and you are doing, I mean, because it's physical exertion on top of everything else.
Yes.
The amount of moisture you are just putting out can really put you in a bind really quickly.
Yep. Even loading in, even loading out. But you it's physical work, and I've had gigs where I showed up thinking everything was cool and I was a Superman or something, and by downbeat I realized I wasn't sweating anymore, and I was starting to get dizzy, and I was starting to feel heat exhaustion-y, and by the time you get there, it's too late. You're gonna have a bad night.
Yeah.
If you stay on your feet, you're gonna have a headache the rest of the night,
Yep.
and there's a good chance you won't stay on your feet. So you got to, hydration's a thing you got to stay out ahead of, and so it's as simple as just bring a big old water bottle, keep slugging on it. There's nothing better than water. People I know you're a fan of liquid IV, and I guess that's good, but
Yeah, let's talk about that. So outside of, because water it's the thing you're going to need to consume in order to stay on top of things. I'm a fan of the hydration assistant.
Yep.
For a couple of reasons. One, they do work. It's adding, sodium and vitamins back into your body when you need them the most.
Right.
And they have myriad uses outside of, keeping you hydrated when you're performing outside. Sometimes you're playing inside, but maybe you went a little hard in the paint with the green room rider, and you don't want to necessarily feel like entire garbage the next day, and they also can help you in those scenarios.
Yes.
And I do like liquid IV. That's what kind of like, I feel like at this point is they're kind of the Band-Aid of that world.
Yeah.
They've really got the biggest brand recognition, but Liquid Death did in fact send me some of their version of this, which they call Death Dust.
Nice.
I got a 12-pack sampler from them to do some content on TikTok about, and I got the 3-flavor pack, and it's the flavors are mango chainsaw, severed lime, and convicted melon. And I've tried all of them at this point, and weirdly enough, my least favorite is the mango, and I think my most favorite is the watermelon. And I don't like watermelon at all. I don't like watermelon as a fruit. I don't like watermelon flavored things. Something about that convicted melon is delicious and delightful, and it's kind of been my go-to. The lime one is the thing I like about it is like they taste like the fruit. It's not, when you get like a liquid IV, like it doesn't taste, it tastes like
it's a candy version of the fruit. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
The one that we've been getting recently is like the popsicle bomb pop flavor. So
right.
it tastes like
popsicle. It's supposed to be candy.
Right.
Yeah.
But the lime tastes like actual lime, and whatever this watermelon flavor is great. I'll throw some links in the show notes so people can check them out for themselves. But it's something that can kind of help you, like you were saying, you need to stay in front of it. But in a scenario where you haven't, this can kind of be a shortcut to get you back on the level. So
yeah.
Get a sample pack, get them at Costco or Amazon or whatever, and just throw a handful in your gig bag. Just take it with you, because you never know when you might need them.
Yep.
So beyond hydration, you also want to take into account any sort of like sun related contingencies.
For
So
sure.
our writer says that we're in the shade. Like that's a part, like our stage needs to be covered. We will make exceptions when certain circumstances kind of, make it worthwhile. But if we're playing at like 12 in the afternoon in the middle of summer,
Forget it.
I'm not going to do that on a bare stage.
No.
That is just
No.
lunacy.
Yep.
And if you're in a situation where you're in direct sunlight, you gotta bring your sunscreen, wear a hat.
Hat it up. Yep. Sunglasses.
I'll take a big old straw beach hat
For sure.
if it'll do the job. I'm a fair skinned person, and I literally had a mole scraped off this past week to be biopsied. So I am very adamant about taking care of that.
Yep.
And you should be as well, because it's not great.
No. No.
It was like a razor blade and stuff.
Yeah, it's not good. It's
nasty business.
Yeah. Yep. Watch out for sun. The other thing that you need to be out for, if you can do it, is some airflow. So you and I are both fans of the Lasco brand air movers. Some 100%. People, I see people show up with like a box fan. It's all right. It's not bad, but Lasco, man, they are industrial strength, built to air out your flooded basement. Right? That's how much air they move. And boy, blow one of those up the back of your shirt, and it is a very pleasant day.
Well, and that is my go-to. I think a lot of people, I see a lot of them where they have the air mover in front of them.
Yeah, blowing at their face.
And I don't like that for a number of reasons. First off, you're probably going to hear it in the mic because it's blowing air into it directly. And it just, like, your face is not the spot where most of your heat is generated.
Right. Plus it dries me out. Like, it dries out my throat, and I can't sing great with a fan blowing in my face.
But man, you got that aimed right at the middle of your back.
Oh.
That is just, that's a good time.
Good place to have it.
So if you're new to the game or you haven't quite figured out your setup, my recommendation is behind you, maybe off to like the side a little bit.
Yeah, because otherwise it will hit your mic when you step away. Right.
So you want it off mic, but like pointed real close to the middle of your back.
Yep.
And it will lower your core temperature considerably if done properly. And that's pretty much it as far as the heat part goes.
Yeah, and I think
stay out of the sun if you can. Hydrate. Sunscreen, shade. I think that hits all the notes.
I think we may have to know that there will come a summer in our future where heat will just be too high out to play. If you're in this last few weeks in Scottsdale, Arizona, right? I wouldn't play an outdoor gig at 110 degrees. Would you? Like, absolutely not.
No,
absolutely not.
They do outdoor concert series in Las Vegas. Like, I don't understand.
I know, it's bonkers.
And we've got listeners in Vegas that's their market.
Yeah.
And it's got to be brutal.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be miserable for the audience. Like, why would anyone put themselves through that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
especially with all the indoor space in Vegas.
Oh, of course. And it's all very well conditioned,
right.
Yeah. Now, I found something that I thought was really neat. And I think would be valuable. And I wish I had the URL for it. Again, we'll drop it in the show notes. But I found a shade estimator website. So what it allows you to do is you can put a location in this case, the venue or the place that you're performing, and you can run through the timeline of the day to determine when the place you'll be playing is in the shade. And I used that for the first time for that radio show, that Throwback Thursday that ended up getting rained out, because it was an uncovered stage. And I was like, are we going to be roasting in the sun? And it turns out that around the time that we were supposed to start playing, the sun was going to be behind all the buildings. It was perfectly dialed in for that. Of course, it didn't matter at that point, but that's just kind of a handy tool.
Yeah.
To kind of add to your arsenal. We're going to drop some app recommendations on rain contingency later on, but be resourceful about those things. Find whatever tools you can use to make sure that if nothing else, that you're well informed about what you're walking into and what to expect, so that when the time comes, you know what's going to happen, and you've got the proper equipment to handle it.
Right. Right. One more thing before we move on from heat. I and many people like me have a deeply ingrained aversion to performing in shorts. That came from many years of getting that drilled into me as a young musician.
Yep.
There comes a time that you just have to let that go.
Yes, there's a time and a place for everything, and there is also a particular threshold where you're not doing yourself any favors,
Right.
and whatever cool points you would lose by wearing shorts, you will gain in cool points by not dying of heat stroke.
Correct.
Different cool points.
It's just all, life's about trade-offs. That's what it comes down to.
I could not agree more. But again, this is what happens as you kind of continue down this path, as you age.
Yeah.
Because like Warped Tour, I was in a 3-piece suit in blacktop in the middle of July. It was 107 degrees, and I've got like a flowy blouse on, and all black, just like sweating eyeliner like down my face,
Right.
and hairspray just like melted into my eyes. It's but we did it.
You did it.
We suffered for the art, as it were. But you couldn't. Yeah, no, I would never do that.
No.
These days.
No.
Did I wear pants at this 90s night? Yeah, I did. But I also had other contingencies to make sure that I wasn't fully miserable.
Yeah,
only partly miserable.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, now let's get into let's talk about rain. Let's talk about storms. Let's talk about that whole thing, because while heat stroke is bad, the only thing typically that will happen is that you hurt you.
Right.
But I say that, and that last outdoor thing I did, that solo acoustic thing on the 4th of July, I totally borked my speaker by leaving it out in the direct sunlight. So
right.
Maybe I'm full of it. But wet gear's bad.
Yes. Wet gear's bad.
And you don't want wet gear.
No.
And I think we all have been in a situation. I was in one less than a week ago where you're staring down the barrel of getting completely hosed out, and you've got a very short period of time to get your stuff off stage, out of harm's way, before it all comes down. There's still pieces of my rig that I have not been able to locate since that show went down.
All right.
I bought a second iClip expand because I couldn't find the first one, and the same goes for my my quick release for my 55.
Yeah.
Because it disappeared. I don't know where it went. So.
Yeah, that's why I usually decline help packing up especially my acoustic stuff. Like, thank you. Now I want to know where everything is when I'm done.
Yeah, I didn't have the luxury of.
No, you needed help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an all hands on deck situation. Like I said, I was putting the last bag into the car when the bottom dropped out. So
right.
We made it just under, just in the nick of time.
Right.
But we had about a 20-minute lead time on that, and we had that because we were being diligent about keeping track of the radar, because at least where we are in the South, I'm not, I don't want to speak out of turn, because to me, this could be like a universal thing, and you can just email Coverbandconfidential@gmail.com, be like, yeah, it's like that everywhere, dummy. Storms just kind of pop up out of nowhere. Like there's not some sort of front that's coming your way. It just, you blink and all of a sudden there's a storm cell less than a mile from you.
Sure. Yeah.
And it disappears just as quickly.
Here where humidity's high, that is a thing that can certainly happen. Yeah, for sure. And sometimes there are storms on their way in and coming through, and you can kind of see them and predict them. But even then, often they dry up or don't land quite where you thought. I had a situation last weekend. I shared, I think, about it last week on the pod, where I made the call that it was going to be a rain day, and it was supposed to be the full band outside, and the venue doesn't have room for a full band inside, so we shifted it to just Taylor and me duo acoustic inside, and that turned out to be the right answer. It poured all night, but there was a time in the afternoon when things were clearing up and the numbers were dropping, and I was starting to get some, should we say, feedback on the call that I'd made. And I like to rely on a certain set of objective measures about that, but sometimes it's just not that easy. Sometimes you have to wait it out another hour or see what that cloud does, like you did at that show.
Yep.
Um,
So all we can do is use the tools at our disposal, and it's still kind of a crapshoot. Now, when it's crunch time and you've got to make that call, two questions. What are your go-to apps or resources to anticipate what's going on? And then what does it take for you to finally call it when it's looking like it's going to happen?
Yep. So there are two things I like. The Apple Weather app on iOS used to be crap, and now it's actually pretty great. It has the by minute prediction of rain or chart on it. I don't know what that has a name, I'm sure, but I've just
Hourly forecast, predictive.
something. Well, it'll show you is like over the next half hour, the rain's going to go high and then back down a little bit and then go back up. It's charting out the prediction of weather right where you are, which is pretty cool. The other app I like for radar prediction stuff is Weather Underground, wonderground.com. The cool thing about Wonderground is that it's got a huge network of people with personal weather stations that are submitting feeds to it, so you can get really local with your conditions, and that's good. And in terms of what I'm looking for, my personal threshold is 30% chance of rain at any time during load in, gig, or load out.
Okay.
If we hit that number, I'm pretty unwilling to bring my gear out.
That's fair. And how do you have that conversation with the booker or who's running the event?
Well, if it's a contracted gig, that's in the contract.
Yep.
Most of mine at this point are not. They're bar gigs, and I just tell them this is my policy. I'm bringing out something like $8,000 worth of gear, not counting just mine, let alone drums and other people's instruments. And so it's a call I'm going to make. And hopefully they have space inside. We can regroup and make a backup plan. Happy to do anything about that. But in a lot of these places, their weekend night is built around nice weather on their patios, in my experience. Sure. And so it's a bummer for them when that gets rained out. The place that we were playing last week, again, the inside is not big. Great patio, big patio. The one time, twice the weather's held up there we've played, but we seem to get rained out there just about every time. There's the number of times I've turned it into an acoustic gig and brought my drummer on his cajon or Taylor to sing with me or whatever. We've done that a lot. And it's a sad thing for them because, well, they save a little money on us. I dropped the dollars down a little bit.
Sure.
But it's nothing on what the potential sale they lost by having the patio clear out. Yeah. So it's a rough night for them either way. And have there been times I've made the call and then it didn't work out to rain? Yeah, that has happened. And that there's got to be a level of risk that you're willing to take and a level you're not willing to take. And that's the nature of risk, is sometimes it doesn't pan out to be as risk, the danger doesn't appear, but that doesn't mean the risk evaluation wasn't valid.
Yeah. The verbiage in the contract, which is the one that you can buy on our website, around weather is very specific. And it's not just, setting a percentage of rain or whatever, but there's also specific verbiage around if we are asked to relocate, we are only going to reconfigure once.
Right.
Like you can't move everything in and then things clear up. It's like, oh, can we no, that's not something that we're going to do.
Right.
We've got temperature indicators that we won't do outdoor events, whether things are too hot or too cold.
Yep.
So you can drill down and be very specific about the things that you are and aren't willing to do in terms of what kind of weather situations you're running into. So if you can get it in writing, but we had a couple of gigs that were not contracted because the terms were just outside of our control. That radio one, there was like, we don't contract with you contract with us. And so typically if we show up and we load in, we get paid. But there are certain circumstances where, we won't get paid until we get rescheduled.
Yeah.
And for the crew, like we had guys there helping us set up and stuff, I will, take that out of earnings from other gigs to make sure that they get paid in a timely fashion. Cause it's like, it's not cool for people who are helping you out to get stiffed, when something like that happens. But if you have the ability to get a contract together and present that to a client, I can't tell you how many times our contract has saved us, and for the price that you can get it from us, it's so worth it. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
But as far as making that call, if we don't have the, the parameters like we have in the contract, I think I'm kind of on the same spot as you. 30% is probably like the threshold. Cause if you're looking at 55%, like you're done.
No,
like
forget
it's going to happen.
Yep.
And if it doesn't, okay, pleasant surprise. But you've got to look at that entire chunk of time. It can't just be, well, it's not going to rain during the show, because there's all this other stuff that has to happen before and after the show in order for the show to happen.
Exactly. So
if if the client comes back, it's like, well, it's 50% until downbeat. Well, what are we supposed to do?
Right.
How are we supposed to set up? How are we supposed to like get our levels and sound check? Like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And sometimes, again, this is one of those things where when you're talking with people who are throwing events, they don't always know these things. And a lot of times the stuff isn't, they're not doing it out of malice or ill intent. They just don't understand. So it is very important that you position yourself as educators in those scenarios and not do it in a way that is condescending or rude. But you do have to explain like, hey, this is what putting a show together involves. And this is why it's not feasible given these circumstances.
Yep.
So don't necessarily jump down somebody's throat right away because they ask what you consider to be an inappropriate or impractical request of you and your group.
Yeah. They don't know. They're trying to make it work.
Right. And you should be trying to make it work too. Like I've definitely been in conversations where it's just like, I just want to go home.
I know.
I don't want to like, but you do have to, you got to try. You got to meet them. Try to get to yes. But even if the yes is, this is not going to happen, here's what I can do for you.
Right.
Which doesn't always feel like getting to yes, but it is at least setting proper boundaries around the things that you can offer as far as contingencies go when probability is not looking good.
Right.
So,
and it's not an easy conversation.
No,
you gotta be a big person and have it.
Yeah. And you gotta be willing to toe the line, be like, hey, this is not going to work for us. Yeah. And I'm not going to put my equipment, I'm not going to put my people in harm's way for this event.
Yeah.
Because if I want to continue to do this, I've got to have both of those things.
That's right.
In good working order. You know what I mean?
Yep. What was that? I can't remember who it was, but a guy died because like a wet fan came up and hugged him, and then he got electrocuted on stage. Who was that?
It was somewhere in South America. Let me look that up real quick.
Yeah.
He was like a young guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brazilian singer, 35, dies after a horrifying electrocution on stage.
Yeah.
This happened like a week ago.
Right.
Arias Sasaki. I'm sorry, July 13th is when it. And yeah, he was. I can't. Ugh.
Yeah.
How horrifying.
Yeah. Terrible.
And if a promoter or somebody is giving you a hard time, send them that article.
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah. All that took was a soggy person. Like, imagine soggy sky.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That's no good.
Yeah. What's your advice for if I'm playing along on a patio and it's gorgeous and suddenly it starts gushing? What do you do?
Well, this is it's the house fire scenario. You got to pick what's most precious and rescue it first.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like electronics go, get the things that would potentially be the most damaged done first. And if it's your speakers, it's not that hard. Unplug them, power them down, unplug them, they're probably okay
Yeah.
to sit in the rain for a little while. Just when you get home, dry them out, let them air for a day or two. You should be fine.
Yeah.
You know, instruments need to probably be prioritized. Any sort of, I always think about mixers, because like if you've got like an actual like analog mixer, those faders are just open,
Oh yeah.
open
Disaster.
crevices.
Yep.
That could be easily destroyed with a heavy downpour. Those are the kinds of things you need to look for. Anything that where the potential of water getting into it, ruining it,
Yeah.
would be priority. So
I mean, I think about
in
acoustic
our
drums.
world, yep.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about like if you use laptops, like those got to go. Most of the other stuff, like in our, like as far as like our front of house rig, you know, you can literally just throw the lids on it and it'll be fine, because nothing's getting in a way that would penetrate, I hate saying that word, into the components. So yeah, that what I would say. Instruments, anything that has I don't know, openings towards the sky,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't sweat speakers. Speakers are fairly resilient,
Yeah.
all things considered.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mine took
not that you want
5 straight hours in 100+ degree heat before it decided, like, all right, fine.
Right. And did it come back?
Enough already.
Or is it dead?
Oh yeah, no, it's fine.
Oh, okay, good.
Now I've brought spares ever since, because I'm a little gun shy about it. But I don't think we have any more outdoor gigs this season where we're running our rig. Everything else is kind of like, you know, we're either it's a festival situation or we're playing indoors where, you know, heat's not going to be a factor. So I think we're all right.
Right. Good.
But yeah. So now Brian sent us an email. He had a couple of stories talking about what his band does. They're from Durham, actually, not too far from you.
Right down the street.
And he was talking about getting they roll in with a like a portable canopy when they're playing outdoors, that has side and back panels, which is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
You know, a lot of times you go to like somebody's putting on a show and they have like those tailgating tents, and those are fine if shade is all you're looking for, but like, you know, if it gets nasty, like you're SOL.
Yeah.
He was also talking about how one time the gig went fine, but the guitar player was carting a lot of the gear and he's got a pickup truck. And so 45-minute drive home, torrential downpour, all of that stuff just getting just pummeled on the way home.
Brutal.
And he finally he got a bed topper with like the cargo slide, which is really smart.
Yeah.
That way, you know, you're not killing yourself trying to move it around.
Yeah,
you know,
all hunched over under a cargo topper, trying to get things all the way in the back. Brutal. Yeah,
miserable.
Yeah, you don't want that.
And you know, trailers are a good thing if that's something that you want to do. Honestly, like the thing that I keep thinking about, because like again, I keep accumulating all this crap. I'm heavily considering looking at some sort of like just having a band production vehicle, which is like insane. That's such an upfront investment. But also the prospect of like being able to just like hop into a car that everything is already loaded in and it stays that way.
Oh yeah.
Like the gear goes into like a Sprinter. It goes to the show. It comes out of the Sprinter, goes back in the Sprinter. It goes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, when I was playing a weekly acoustic show, my acoustic rig just rode with me, and yeah, it meant I couldn't carry too many kids around in the back when we had kids over.
Yeah.
In some ways, kind of a plus, but but it was great to just pull up and, you know, not have to go to the storage unit, pick up things, come back.
Yeah. I was doing work for a buddy of mine who does this thing called the Big Game Show. It's like literally like they go to like corporate events and things, and they do live trivia with like a host in it. It's configured like a game show, and his setup is genius. It's literally it's not like a Sprinter. What do they call the smaller Sprinters? I can't think of the name of it. It's basically like a minivan size.
Yeah.
But it's built like a work truck.
Yeah.
And he has a storage unit, and he just pulls it into the storage unit.
Great.
And so
it's great.
When it's gig time, somebody goes, they get in the car, they drive to the gig, they come back, they put it back in the thing, they lock it up, and that's like It's always ready at a moment's notice. Somebody just has to go and pick it up. And that seems nice. I don't,
It does seem nice.
we don't have the operating capital to do that currently.
Right.
But man, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. Wow.
I'd love it. Goals. Hashtag goals.
Hashtag goals.
All right. Any other parting words?
No, stay dry, stay cool.
And we didn't really touch on this, but get some tarps.
Tarps.
One of the things that I started doing instead of tarps, because they can be kind of big and unwieldy, because all of my stuff is kind of modular, I went to like a camp store and got like literally like the ponchos, like the rain ponchos that come in like the little bag.
Mm.
And I like the idea of that because you can put like 5 or 6 of them in a gig bag and it doesn't take up any room.
Yeah.
And when it's go time, you literally just rip them open, cover all your stuff up, and then you can just throw them out when you're done.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't had to use them this year, but I'm always ready to deploy it.
Yeah. It's like a tarp that's already pedalboard sized.
Pretty much.
Just lay it right on.
And
there.
that's, yeah. So you can put it on a laptop. You can put it on a pedal board. You
Yeah.
can cover, a guitar stand, like easy peasy.
That's good.
So I'll throw that on there too. We'll get a running tally of all the things you need to survive.
That's right.
Maybe, you know what?
We can make a kit.
I'll go onto my Amazon storefront. I'll put like a musician weather survival kit.
Yeah.
Just curated list, and we'll put that link in the show notes. That'll one-stop shop.
There you go.
Cool beans. All right, man. Well, listen, I hope that you guys don't have to deal with this and that the weather gods are in your favor. I really was thinking like Mother Nature had it out for us this year because we've had a lot of run-ins, more so than usual. I do remember one year where we were booked at this one place 5 times over the course of the summer, and it rained. We were rained out, I think, 3 of the 5 times.
Mm.
And they were like in a row, like 3 in a row, where we just like, ugh. It hasn't been that bad since, but this year's running for the title.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all the support. If you have any questions or you have any suggestions, is there anything that we didn't mention that you think is kind of like a go-to must-have? Email us, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, we're going to let Mike take it from here. But listen, Mike has already made it abundantly clear that he's ready to retire his jersey on this show wrap deal. So if you're out there and you get to the end of the show every week and you're like, I could do better than that.
Yeah.
Do it. Put it to the test. We've had multiple users do them. 2 Adams, actually.
Yes.
Adam Reynolds and Adam from the Van Band. And Schulte currently has it, but
could be you.
Number one, it could be. Just put one together, send it to us.
Yep.
You'd be surprised. We might just put it up.
Yep.
We'll go ahead and call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You've been listening to the Coverband Confidential podcast for the week of August 2nd, 2024.